My name is Delphine, and I need to tell you what happened before I lose the nerve. I'm 24 years old, and until 3 months ago, I worked the overnight audit shift at a historic riverfront hotel in New Orleans. When I say historic, I mean the building has bones. It was constructed in 1847, back when this part of the French Quarter was still finding its identity. The walls are thick brick, the ceilings impossibly high, and every floorboard remembers something. The hotel has 5 floors, but only 4 are in use. The 5th floor has been sealed since Hurricane Katrina flooded the building back in 2005. Water damage, structural concerns, asbestos. The official reasons changed depending on who you asked. Corporate decided it was cheaper to simply close it off than renovate. They disconnected the elevator access, chained the stairwell door, and pretended it didn't exist. Guests asked about it sometimes. Curious tourists who'd counted the windows from the street and noticed the discrepancy. I always gave them the same polite lie. The elevator doesn't stop there anymore. They'd nod, lose interest, move on. Working overnight audit means you're alone, truly alone. The kind of alone where you hear every pipe settling, every distant siren on Decatur Street, every drunk couple arguing their way back to their room at 4 a.m. You learn the rhythm of the building. You learn what sounds belong and what sounds don't. 3 months ago, a man checked in just after midnight. He had no reservation, no luggage except a small leather bag, and he paid cash for a full week up front. The name on the registration card was written in precise mechanical letters. R. Moreau. He requested the 4th floor specifically, room 412. I remember the room number because it sits directly beneath the sealed 5th floor, right in the center of the building, where the architecture gets strange, where the hallway seems longer than it should be, and the wallpaper pattern doesn't quite line up. He was tall, perhaps 6'3", wearing a long, dark coat despite the muggy September heat. His face was forgettable in that uncanny way some faces are. I looked right at him and couldn't tell you his age or eye color even 5 minutes later. He didn't make small talk, didn't ask about breakfast hours or Wi-Fi passwords. Just took the key card, nodded once, and walked toward the elevator with a stride that was almost too smooth, too measured. Over the next 7 days, I noticed things. Small things that accumulated into dread. He never used the pool, never ordered room service, never appeared in the lobby or the courtyard or the bar. The only reason I knew he was still in the building was because housekeeping reported the "Do Not Disturb" sign remained on his door day after day, and occasionally they'd hear water running or footsteps inside. But the strangest part started on his 2nd night. At exactly 2:47 a.m., the motion sensor on the 5th floor hallway triggered. We weren't supposed to have working sensors up there. The entire floor was mothballed, but the security system was old, jury-rigged across multiple renovations, and sometimes signals crossed. When I pulled up the camera feed, more out of boredom than concern, I expected static or darkness. Instead, I saw him. The corridor was lit by emergency exit lights that I didn't even know still functioned, casting everything in that sickly greenish glow. The camera was positioned at the far end of the hall, looking down the length of the faded carpet and peeling wallpaper. And there he was, the man from room 412, still wearing that long, dark coat, walking slowly down the 5th floor hallway. Not stumbling, not hesitant, walking like he'd been there 1,000 times before. He stopped in front of a door. I checked the floor plan. If the 5th floor still used the same numbering system, he was standing outside what would have been room 512, directly above his own room. Then he just stood there, motionless, facing the door, Not knocking, not trying the handle, just standing with his head slightly tilted as if listening to something on the other side. At exactly 3:03 a.m., he turned and walked back the way he came. The feed went dark. I told myself it was a glitch, a loop, old footage cycling through corrupted drives. But the timestamp was live, and when I checked the stairwell access logs the next morning, the chain on the 5th floor door was still locked, untouched, thick with the same dust that had been there for years. It happened again the next night, 2:47 a.m. Same walk, same stop, same 16 minutes of perfect stillness. And the night after, and the night after that. By the 5th night, I was queuing up the camera feed before it happened, watching the empty corridor, waiting. My hands were shaking when he appeared, right on schedule, stepping into frame like an actor hitting his mark. I started taking notes. His stride never varied. 23 steps from where he entered frame to where he stopped. His head always tilted at the same angle. The coat never moved, never swayed, as if there was no air up there at all. On the 7th night, I watched him and whispered, "What are you doing?" My voice sounded too loud in the empty lobby. On the 8th morning, he checked out. I wasn't at the desk. I was in the back office, exhausted, half asleep over cold coffee. When I came out, the key card was sitting on the dresser in room 412. Housekeeping called me before they'd even finished the hallway. You need to see this. The room was immaculate. Bed barely slept in, towels unused. No trace of a week-long stay except for one detail. Directly above the bed, a small circle of ceiling plaster had been scraped away. It was precise, maybe 3 inches in diameter, carved out with something sharp and patient. Beneath the plaster was a lens. I'm not talking about a crack or a hole. I mean a camera lens, professional grade, drilled down from the floor above, the sealed floor pointing directly at the bed. Someone had mounted a camera in the ceiling of the 5th floor and bored through to watch room 412 from above. I felt cold in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. Mr. Moreau hadn't been the watcher. He'd been the watched. I called corporate immediately. They sent maintenance within the hour. 2 guys who didn't ask questions, just patched the hole with joint compound and paint and told me to forget about it. When I insisted we check the 5th floor, they said the door was still chained and there was no point wasting time. But I knew what I'd seen. Someone had been up there. Someone had installed that camera. Someone had watched him sleep for 7 nights. And he'd known, and he'd gone up there every night to stand on the other side, listening. I requested a transfer to day shift. When they couldn't accommodate it, I quit. I moved to Baton Rouge, got a job at a bank, found a quiet apartment in a new building with thin walls and neighbors I could hear laughing through the floor. I needed noise. I needed proof of people. For 2 months, nothing happened. I started sleeping through the night again. Then last week, my phone buzzed at 2:47 a.m. Unknown number. No message, just a photo. It was my bedroom ceiling, taken from directly above my bed. A small circle of plaster had been scraped away in the same precise diameter. And in the center, waiting in the dark, was the same lens. I'm writing this from a hotel. I don't know what else to do. I don't know who to call. Because the worst part isn't the photo. The worst part is that when I looked up at my ceiling that night, it was smooth, perfectly intact. Whoever sent that picture was showing me what's coming. My name is Rowan. I'm 22, and I make my living house sitting for the kind of people who own multiple properties and winter in Aspen or Palm Springs, while their Bay Area mansions sit empty. It's easy money for someone like me. No ties, no permanent address, comfortable with solitude. I water plants, cycle lights, accept packages. Mostly, I just exist in beautiful, empty spaces. The houses are always secure. Cameras everywhere, doorbell cams, motion sensors, interior feeds monitored through apps that ping every time a shadow crosses a hallway. More surveillance than any single human could possibly watch. But it makes the owners feel safe. In December, I accepted a 3-week placement at a glass and redwood mansion in Portola Valley. 4 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a canyon, a kitchen with appliances I didn't know how to operate. The owner, a venture capitalist named Garrett, walked me through the security system during the handoff. 12 cameras total, all feeds viewable on my phone. He mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that the previous house sitter had quit suddenly. Didn't give a reason, didn't ask for a reference, just sent a 1-sentence email and disappeared. He laughed when he told me, like it was quirky rather than concerning. The first night was silent in the way expensive houses are. Sound dampened, hermetically sealed, climate controlled to a perfect 68 degrees. I made dinner, watched Netflix on a TV the size of a wall, and fell asleep in the guest room on the 2nd floor. The second night, everything changed. I woke at 3:11 a.m. to my phone vibrating. Not a call, a notification, camera alert, multiple feeds. I opened the app, squinting against the screen brightness, expecting maybe a deer outside or a branch against a window. Every single interior camera had switched to the same view. All 12 feeds showed the same image: the master bedroom, the king-sized bed where I was currently sleeping. The angle was from directly above, shot from the smoke detector mounted in the ceiling. I could see myself under the white duvet, a small shape in the center of that enormous bed, perfectly still. The timestamp rolled live. 3:11:47, 3:11:48, 3:11:49. I held my breath, watching myself sleep on the screen. Then the covers moved. Not like I'd rolled over. They peeled back. Slowly, deliberately, as if someone sitting on the edge of the mattress had gripped the fabric and pulled it down to my waist, exposing me in my t-shirt and shorts. I didn't feel anything. No weight on the bed. No touch. No change in temperature. On the screen, I watched the duvet fold down with mechanical precision, watched my sleeping self remain motionless, utterly unaware. I leapt out of bed screaming, scrambling backward into the wall, and every camera feed snapped back to normal. Living room, kitchen, hallway, front door, all different angles again, all empty. I checked the master bedroom feed. It showed the bed, rumpled now from my panic, duvet half on the floor where I'd kicked it, timestamp still rolling forward. Nothing unusual, nothing impossible. I left at dawn. Didn't even pack properly, just threw things into my bag and drove back to Oakland with my hands trembling on the wheel. I sent Garrett a 2-sentence resignation. He didn't argue. He paid me for the full 3 weeks and said he'd find someone else. I took a month off, picked up a bartending gig, told myself I'd imagined it, or the system had glitched, or I'd been dreaming. But I couldn't shake the image of those covers moving, pulled by hands I couldn't see. 3 weeks ago, I accepted another placement. The money was triple my usual rate, enough to cover 2 months' rent. Different house, different part of the bay. But when I saw the owner's name on the contract, my stomach dropped. Garrett. Same owner. I almost backed out. But he assured me this was a different property, a condo in San Francisco, much smaller, newer construction. And I needed the money. Last night I found out why the previous sitter quit. I hadn't gone to bed yet. It was just past 3 a.m., and I was reading on the couch, winding down. My phone buzzed. Ring notification. Motion detected in the bedroom. I opened the app. The camera showed the bedroom perfectly. Bed made because I hadn't slept in it yet. Lights off. And standing in the center of the frame, staring directly up at the camera, was me. I was waving, slowly. One hand raised, fingers moving in a gentle, deliberate greeting. Except I was still on the couch, still holding my phone, still looking at myself on the screen. I ran to the bedroom. It was empty, bed untouched. No one there. I checked the feed again. The figure was gone. Just an empty room. I'm in my car right now, parked outside a 24-hour diner, writing this because I don't know what else to do. I don't know who that was. I don't know if it's something in the cameras, or something that uses them, or something that's learned to show me what I'm not supposed to see yet. But I know it's not a glitch, because when I looked closely at the video, at the figure waving up at the lens, I could see details I shouldn't have been able to see. The shirt I was wearing was the same one I had on, but it was torn at the sleeve, and there was something dark on the collar, something that looked like blood. My name is Sullivan. I'm 26, and I maintain hiking trails in a national forest in Montana. It's solitary work, chainsaw maintenance, clearing deadfall, installing erosion barriers on switchbacks that see maybe a dozen hikers all season. Most days, the only voices I hear are my own, and the wind moving through lodgepole pines. I live in a Forest Service cabin, 8 miles from the nearest road, accessible only by trail or snow machine depending on the season. It's basic: wood stove, propane lights, a radio for emergencies. I prefer it this way. People are complicated. Trees are not. Last June, during a routine patrol on the northern ridge, I found a tent. It was set up deep off-trail, at least 2 miles from any established route, in a spot you'd only find if you knew the area intimately or got very, very lost. The tent was expensive, one of those ultralight backpacking models that costs more than my truck payment. I called out. No answer. I waited 20 minutes, then unzipped the fly. Inside was a sleeping bag, a compact cook kit, a water filter, and a Ziploc bag containing a stack of printed photographs. I pulled them out. They were satellite images, Google Earth screenshots, high resolution, showing my cabin from every possible angle. North, south, east, west. Zoomed in close enough to see the woodpile, the rain barrel, the solar panel I'd installed last summer. Each image was dated a month earlier and annotated in neat handwriting with distances and sight lines. Someone had been planning, studying, preparing. I packed everything out, tent, bag, all of it, and hauled it down to the ranger station. I burned the photographs in my wood stove that night and watched the images of my home curl and blacken. Nothing else happened. Summer passed. Fall came and went. I started to forget. Then the snow came, and with it, the tracks. It was mid-February, the kind of cold where your breath freezes in your beard and every step squeaks against snow hard as concrete. I was skiing up to check a trail closure sign about 3 miles north of my cabin when I saw them. Boot prints, fresh, crossing the closed trail and heading directly toward my place. I stopped, studied them. My chest went tight. They were mine. Same tread pattern from my lower boots, same stride length, same slight outward angle on the right foot from an old knee injury. But I hadn't been up there in 9 days. I followed them. They led straight to my cabin, circled the building twice, close enough that whoever made them must have been peering in the windows, then turned around and walked back along the exact same line. Heel over toe, boot print inside boot print, creating the illusion of only one set of tracks, one journey. Whoever it was wanted me to see only the arrival, not the departure. I didn't sleep in the cabin that night. I threw a bag in my truck and drove down to the ranger station, then further into town, where I got a room at a cheap motel and double-locked the door. I stayed away for a week. When I finally returned, the snow had melted just enough in the midday sun to reveal something I'd missed. A Polaroid photograph pinned under a rock on my doorstep. It showed me asleep in the driver's seat of my truck. The photo was taken through the windshield. My rifle was across my lap. Both my hands were visible, resting on the stock and barrel. And a third hand, gloved, unfamiliar, rested gently on my shoulder from the back seat. I haven't gone home since. I'm writing this from a motel in Missoula, moving every few days, paying cash, keeping my phone off. But it doesn't matter, because every night at exactly 2:58 a.m., the ice machine down the hall starts running by itself. I've tested it, unplugged it, complained to the front desk. It doesn't matter. At 2:58, it roars to life. And when I open the door, because I always open the door, I can't help myself. There's a plastic bucket waiting underneath, filled to the brim with perfect cubes. And floating on top, sealed in a plastic bag to keep it dry, is a Polaroid. Tonight's room, tonight's bed, tonight's me, already asleep in a photo taken hours before I'll actually close my eyes. Last night the photo showed my left hand hanging off the edge of the mattress. This morning, I woke up with my left hand hanging off the edge of the mattress in the exact same position. I don't know who's doing this. I don't know what they want, but I know they're always exactly one step ahead, watching me before I arrive, photographing me before I sleep. And I know that sooner or later, they're going to get tired of just watching